Thank you, Mr. Acting Chairman, and I agree with that question. It's a good question. We should do that. So, thank you. A decade of budget cuts have hollowed out the IRS, so it just doesn't have the resources to go after wealthy tax cheats. And that's why I've introduced the Restoring the IRS Act to provide $31.5 billion in mandatory annual funding to allow the IRS to fairly enforce the tax code, to modernize its IT systems, and to improve taxpayer services. I am glad that President Biden and you, Commissioner Reddick, agree with me on the importance of making big investments in the IRS, but it is crucial to make sure that this money is going toward making our tax enforcement fairer, not reinforcing inequities like the racial wealth gap. So, Commissioner Reddick, what data and analysis has the IRS developed on how its enforcement activities affect low-income Black Americans?
Treasury, Office of Tax Policy and Office of Tax Analysis are the ones that handle that. IRS is the tax administration agency, if you will. So we provide data to Treasury. I can say that Treasury has multiple working groups in this space, and I think the appropriate thing would be to have Treasury interact with you and give you a heads up on really what they're looking at, what they have looked at, data they've received. But the IRS itself does not collect data with respect to race, as you know.
Okay, so you're not collecting race data right now. I was glad to see President Biden issue an executive order on racial equity back in January, including a call for more data. But I want to see some concrete actions coming out of it, and that includes concrete actions at the IRS. This is important because the IRS doesn't just mechanically enforce our tax rules. The IRS has significant discretion. For instance, when it comes to audits, research shows that the IRS disproportionately targets poor Black communities in the South for audits. We also know that an estimated 20% of eligible taxpayers don't receive the Earned Income Tax Credit, which provides crucial support to low-income working families. Likely, many of these families not getting this lifeline are families of color, but we need more analysis to know for sure what's happening. So, Commissioner Reddick, let me ask, will you commit the IRS to conducting a thorough analysis of the racial impacts of IRS services and enforcement activities?
And I think I can say, one, I need to dispute your first comment. I think the data is contrary to that, but we can go into that in another time.
The data are contrary to what?
About that we disproportionately look at lower income taxpayers or people of color, and the data is contrary to that.
So it is not the case? I thought your data showed that there are more audits in poor areas in the South than there are, for example, of rich people in the North.
The IRS, the only lower income individuals audited by the Internal Revenue Service are with respect to the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is about a 1.1% rate. And the reason that we even look in that direction, we have a $17.4 billion improper payment rate there. The only reason we look in that is because of IPERA. We're required to report an improper payment rate, and our RAS group, our research group, are the ones that come up with what that is, and they require us essentially to have a 1% audit rate for them to be able to extrapolate off of that to what it would be.
Fair enough on what may be the reason for the audit, but I guess the question, let me just go back to the question that matters the most to me, and that is, will you commit the IRS to conducting thorough analyses of the racial impacts of IRS services and enforcement activities?
And I'll come back to my original comment, which is Treasury is doing that.
So you think Treasury is collecting enough data?
I'm a Bureau of Treasury.
You have no more data collection responsibilities or opportunities? Is that what you're saying to me?
Not at all. I'm a Bureau of Treasury. I report to the Secretary, and we work with Treasury, and they have the economists and others who do this type of work.
So they
we are
the
working
ones
with
who
them.
will decide that you collect these data or not?
Well, you'll know. I'm assuming Treasury would make all the information public, and if not, maybe you ask.
The question
correct.
I'm asking is, though, are you collecting these data so that we can do the analysis?
Well, we
on
don't
racial
have
disparities?
race data.
That's my point. So are you committed to providing the kind of data collection that you can to be able to study the racial impact of the decisions you make?
With what we're doing, we give data to Treasury, and Treasury gets other data, and then their Office of Tax Analysis matches that. And I think, I don't mean to play semantics with you because it might sound like that, but that's where the work is being done. And there is a significant effort. There are a lot of people looking at this within the administration, including IRS. We're working with Treasury on this.
I just want the
so the
IRS
answer is yes.
to be a good partner in this. You know, the paper I was talking about earlier found that the IRS disproportionately audits poor black communities in the South. It was written by a former IRS economist in 2019. And if this is what a former IRS employee can show with existing publicly available data, it seems to me that the IRS both can and should deploy its own resources to examine racial inequities in its enforcement and other activities, and then move to address those inequities. You know, I believe in data, and armed with better data, a revitalized IRS can make sure that it is pursuing its audits fairly, and that expanded tax credits and taxpayer services are reaching the American families that most need that help. And I hope we can be partners in that.
I share your concern, and I think as we've indicated on the phone, look forward to ongoing communications with you in this space. I do believe that when people write articles, they should write it on actual data, that everybody is invited to look at our 2019 and our 2020 data books that have the actual numbers in there. If you look at 2019 data book, page 34, table 17A, it breaks out exactly the numbers there, and you will see. If I can go on briefly one more moment.
It's up to the chairman.
Briefly, please.
Yeah, I apologize, but quite quickly, when we look at what is loosely referred to as the heat map on EITC examinations, if you will, which are correspondence examinations where we ask people, did this child reside with you for 6 months? We look at it, and we don't have race data, but I'm not discounting what you're saying, and I don't want anybody to think that the IRS is insensitive to this issue. I am not, and we are not. But also, when we look at a heat map, personally, we look at it from the perspective of we need to do more outreach and be more on the ground in these communities, and we need to make sure that people know what they are eligible for and to get them the payments that we all want them to get.
Well,
and our people live in these communities.
Mr. Commissioner, I understand. I just hope that on the ground does not mean more audits. And when I look at what a former IRS commissioner or employee has put together with existing publicly available data, I am deeply troubled by the reports there, and I hope that the IRS is not part of the problem, but part of the solution.
Page 34.